Hi, and welcome to the product development case where we're going to be looking at putting together some information on some new products and then seeing what the optimal selling price is. Okay, so I have the worksheet here, and I see that I have the memo, which is going to be instructions on the case. Looks like I have three scenarios here, some finished goods, P1 through 5, some raw materials, and some components. Okay, so those are the worksheets in the workbook, and this is number 1. Use worksheets raw material to cost products P1 through 5 worksheets. On worksheets P1 through 5, make sure you check to see if we have the raw material stock in hand, include a yes or no. Okay, so all right, so these are the materials, and it's a raw material, the cost, and it's the stock quantity. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze the top row. So that no longer drifts away. I'm going to format the cost as a currency and change the stock to just use the comma. Okay, so that looks good. And then of course, I'm going to select the area and I'm going to set the print range, insert, let's see, page layout, print area, set the print area, and then I'm just going to view the print area. I'm going to preview it. I see that, my titles disappear. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to open up page setup and I'm going to, this looks good. I think the margins are fine. I'm going to put a header and a footer on this. And then for the sheet, rows repeat at the top. Just because I freeze that row doesn't mean it's going to freeze on the printout. So now when I do the print preview, I have my header and footer, and I have the titles on every page. Okay, so that's just a little prep work here. So I'm going to now, according to instructions, go back to P1, and I see that these are the raw materials. So P1 is obviously product 1, and there's about 60 raw materials, and the quantity that each raw material is going to use. So I need to bring the cost in. So I could use either a VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP to do this. So I'm going to use the XLOOKUP. You can easily use VLOOKUP too for this if you wanted, but the XLOOKUP I like better. So the value I'm going to find in column A. That's the value. The lookup array is going to be in the raw material. And I want to highlight these columns. And then the return array is going to be the cost. If it's not found, I'm going to say no cost found and hit OK. All right, so now right away, there is an issue. So let me go back to the top. Okay, so this is saved as text, and this is saved as general. So let me switch these both. I'm going to switch these to number. And I'm going to go back. And I'm going to start over because obviously I did something wrong here. I'm going to start over because obviously I made some sort of mistake. So sometimes it could be if the number you're looking up is in a different format than the data you're using. But I think I just set the XLOOKUP wrong. I'm a little new to XLOOKUP, so let me try it again. So the lookup value I want to set to this is the material. The lookup array, I think this is where I made a mistake. I just need to choose the column that I'm trying to match to. And then the array return is going to be the costs column. And then I'm just going to say costs found. Okay, that worked. So I'm going to just double click this. When the white plus turns to black plus, I'm going to double click real quick and pull this down. I'm just going to scroll down to make sure that all the costs are in there. Now for the stock, I want to know if it's in stock. So here I'm going to put, I could do this a couple ways, I guess, because in the raw materials, some things may be out of stock here. So I'm going to go back to P1. So I could use, let's try XLOOKUP again. So I could say, this is the value. This is the, oops, let me go back. This is the value, the lookup array. So I want to get the column to match the number, and then the return array is going to be the stock. So this is if it's not found. So 0 would not mean it's not found. Now, so that would just really tell me so this is basically just bringing in 0. This is just bringing in the stock amount. So here, there's one item that definitely has no stock, but this is not solving the question where we want to know yes or no if in stock. We don't want to return the stock value. So what I'm going to do is, to make this a little simpler, I'm just going to open this up, insert. I'm just going to call this stock value. And I'm going to have this in stock here where I could just put an if statement. So I'm just going to use an if statement. I'm going to say, if this is greater than 0 in stock, if not, out of stock. So let me just make this capital. Okay. Oh, actually, it was supposed to be a yes or a no. So maybe I'll just say, I'll replace this with yes. The instruction said yes or no, so I'll put yes, no. Okay. Copy this down, and then, so this one is no. So this worked. Okay. So I added another field to say stock value, and I'll change this to a number because it was easier. There's probably a way you can put both of these formulas together in one formula instead of making 2 columns, but I'm just going to go with 2 columns for right now. So now the cost of P1, let's figure this out. So this is going to be the quantity times the cost. Oops. We're going to use, again, the quantity times the cost. Okay, so I'm going to copy this down. And this already has a sum range, and I'm just going to check that. Yes. So then you have, this is the cost of P1. So P1, I believe this is the product components, and then the finished goods here in P1, I see that it automatically brought this in D7. Okay, so here this cost, C2 times G1. Saying D. All right. So I think the formula, Yeah, so this is saying C2, which is the amount, times P1, which is P1 here, G1. And that's G1 on P1. Okay, so this P1 is the worksheet, G1 is the cell here. So it's already bringing in the cost of P1, which is probably this is the product. But now we have to do what we would call the components. So there's another thing here called components, and this would be label, folding carton, bottle, cap. So we have to bring this in. So now we would do another VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP here. And I'm going to use the XLOOKUP, and I'm going to say the lookup value is this item number. The lookup array is on components. So I'm going to highlight the material number here. The return array is going to be the cost. And then cost is not found. All right. So now I'll bring this down. Okay, so this brings me the total cost of this product 1, which has a P1 set of raw materials. The raw material mix is P1, and then here are the components to make the finished good, and then the product 1 cost is there. So now I'm going to move on to product 2. So you see how it says 0 here. So I move over to product 2, and I'm going to do the same things, but I'm going to insert, I'm going to put stock here, and again I'm going to start from the beginning, do the XLOOKUP. I want to get the material to the lookup array on the raw material, and the return array is going to be the cost, and I'm just going to say okay. Bring that down. Then I'm going to calculate the stock using the same formula. Not the same formula, the same function, VLOOKUP, or this is XLOOKUP rather. So the material number, lookup array, return array. I'm just going to say okay. So there is. Here I made a mistake. So let's look at this formula again. So A2 is, so components A, yeah. Oh no, so I'm doing raw materials. So I need to go to raw materials. This is what the mistake is. Okay, so let me go back. I jumped ahead of myself. And I did the wrong worksheet, which is good because it brought back NA. Now, if, excuse me, in the formula I said not, if I put any word in here, it's going to pop up this instead of the NA. And that's what that formula is for. But anyway, this formula is wrong. So I'm going to delete this because I chose the wrong worksheet. Product. Lookup array is raw material. It's a lookup array. The return array on the raw material is the cost. And then let's put 0 there. It's not found. All right. Oh, again, I messed up because I put in, I wanted the stock, which is D, but they were C. But I could go in and just edit the formula to change this to, I could open up the chart here again, and I can just put in D:D, and now I get the stock value. And I'll switch that to a number. I'll take away the change. Okay, so now I can do the if statement. If this cell is greater than 0, yes, and I can even say in stock, yes in stock, no out of stock. So here everything, there's one item out of stock, and everything else is in stock. Then I can now calculate the total, which is going to be the cost times the amount. Okay, so this is, I have to change, this is saying C, this is wrong. So I'm going to I can edit this formula, and I want to choose the total. Okay, so that makes sense. So this is something, it was correct. It's actually, yeah, it's correct here, because that is the C column is, no, this is not correct, because I want the F column, the total cost. So this is something that, this is the cost of the material in a per of 1, but this is the quantity I'm using. So if I'm multiplying the quantity by the cost, the total cost of the item has to be column F. So I can also edit this here, where I just replace the C by F. And you can also double check if I highlight the whole column here, there'll be at the bottom, there'll be a number down here to show me the cost. Okay. So that actually, let's go back to the finished goods. It's actually not too far off from what it was. Okay. Let's go. So here's the thing too. This was just, this number was looking at the wrong column. I'm going to change this to currency. And that's why I should always, double check things. So let's go to 3. So again, this is looking at column C. So we're going to change that later. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Let's bring in the cost. So I'll probably update the spreadsheet to take out this formula, or so we'll just delete that. I'm going to rename this total cost. And really, it's bad formatting to have this over here. So I'm going to clear that, and I'm going to put the total cost where it should be here, and denote it with the double lines, the double bottom border as a total. Okay, so let's start at the beginning here. So actually, I'm going to go back and fix that for these. Let me insert. We're going to actually just insert. Just cost time. Make this label this a little bit better. Cost times quantity. And then call this stock. Okay. And then this will be total cost. So I think this is a better format to use now that I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to go back here. We have I'm going to do the sum. But now the problem is it's linked up over here, so it's not going to get the value. So I'm going to have to change this to G2 in the formula. And this is just sort of when you start linking things, little issues like that can occur. I think this makes a lot more sense. I'll just return this times quantity. I think that makes more sense that way. So I'm going to copy these titles. Just over here. And redo the auto sum. But I'm going to have to go back and change this to G2. And I might as well just go in and put these all to number 2 for all 5 products. I don't do that every time, so I don't forget. Okay, continuing with P2. So let's take this now. I'm going to grab these titles. I'm going to P3. P3 is already done. I'll go into P4 and then P5. Okay. So now let me return to P3. And we're going to, so you might ask, can I just take these totals here and go to P3 and paste them in, cut and paste. And we see that it's not going to work because it's bringing in P2. Look up P2, A2. So it's going to bring in that same file, but it's referring to P2. But I can modify this and say P3. And this way it will change it to the worksheet P3. And everything else should be the same. Same thing here, I would have to change this to P3. And then I could bring these down. And you'll, let's see, this says P2 again. This is why it's dangerous to do a cut and paste when, let me do that, was that? P2, B2, yeah, so this cut and paste is not working well. So I would suggest for this particular product not to do a cut and paste. Okay, oops. And then here again, we have to do the sum. The auto sum is to F46. You can see here. So that cut and paste was, I would say, more bothersome than it was worth. Easy to make a mistake. So let's go to P4 and we'll do it the old way where we bring in the cost. And you can sort of, if you want to fast forward, I'm going to do P4 and P5. You can follow along if you want some reinforcement or just double check the answers you get. So here, lookup value, lookup array is on raw material, and I pick, so lookup value and lookup array should be, the number in the lookup value should be contained in the lookup array. And then the return array is going to be the information you want to have returned back. And if you want to have, instead of having n/a, you can put anything here to represent if it's not in the list. So these are all in the list. And then I could do the stock using the same thing. So here, if I bring the formula over, you see that I'd have to change it from, it's looking up from column B in raw material, but I would just switch from A to B. So yeah, this is probably not a good thing because it's going to drift. So when you copy this X lookup over, it's going to drift in the wrong way. So you have to really start the X lookup from scratch. Return array. Okay. Now, again, I picked the wrong column for the return array. So I'm going to go back and I want to pick the stock value here. But again, I put that in the wrong column. I should have done that over here. This is what happens when I'm not paying attention. But that's okay because this is how you learn. You make mistakes, but that's why you always have to check a lot of what you're doing in Excel to see if things make sense. So here's where I'd put the if statement. If this is greater than 0, yes, it's in stock. If not, no, it's not in stock. Just simple yes or no. I'll move these down, put in my cost times quantity. That's why I like this cost times quantity. It's a little bit, let me make this to a currency. This is a number. And then total cost is going to be the auto sum of this. Okay. And then to do P5. So it's a little repetitive, but the repetitiveness is good because then by the end of this, you're going to have VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP. You're going to know it very well. Turn array is cost. Okay. And then stock. So here we're going to do this is the if statement. If this is greater than 0, yes, no. So in stock, question mark, no. These are not in stock because I don't have any stock. All my stock values here are 0. So, but let me put my stock in using the XLOOKUP. Raw materials is A is the lookup array. The return is the stock. I'm going to hit OK. It's down, and then my formula plus stock cost times quantity. And then I'm going to do an auto sum. Okay. So now I have all the raw materials. Remember, for each of these pages, you also should go in and set freeze the top row. And then you want to, okay, and then you should also double check your formats. Here, this should be currency. This should be currency as well. Stock. I'm going to put this in a number format. This is, okay, this is quantity. Put that in a number format. Okay, so and then I'm going to highlight the area. Again, do the page layout. Print area, set the print area, and I can do the page setup, and I'm just going to do the print preview. Okay, so this is spilling onto 2 pages here. So I'm going to go back, and on the page setup, I'm just going to click fit to 1 page and print preview, and it's on 1 page, and it looks fine. So since it's 1 page, I'm okay there. So this is just something that for every page you should go ahead and make sure that you're formatting your work, you're freezing the panes, freezing the top row, setting the print range. So every page should be configured like that. So here we're missing, I must have deleted this. So let me move that up, and then I must have accidentally deleted this here, so I'm going to redo this again. All right, and then I need to freeze the top row, so I always have the titles. I should. Now, alternatively, instead of going through, each of these and setting them up individually like that, I could pick, one file I'm happy with. I can kind of, if I'm okay with how it looks, everything seems to be formatted properly. I can, highlight the page, hit Format Painter, and I can go to the next page, and then I can kind of, for each page, I can uniformly set a uniform format. So this way, by hitting when I select the whole page, the format will copy the format for the whole page, and I just have to press this button in the corner here, and it'll apply the format in the whole page. So that way, things will be uniform. Okay, so I have all of the P1 through 5. Let's see if the finished goods pick that up. Okay, so it looks like saying the cost here is 0, probably because the amount is so low on this. Okay, so I'm going back to I think this formula is wrong, so I'm going to recalculate it. So I'm going to say, I want to take this amount, and I want to multiply it by, this is product, I'm going to go to P3, and I want to multiply it by this amount. Okay. And I'm going to do the formula again here. This times, this is P4. Okay. And I'm just going to do this over again, plus this amount times P5. Okay. I'm going to just redo all of them. P2. Okay. Okay, so I just redid those just to double check. Okay, so we see that we're missing the components. We had set this formula up here to do the components. Okay, so I believe we could just take the way this is formatted. Because we're going off of the B column here, I could just highlight these these X lookups and copy them and paste them right in here, and they will work because the way the X lookup is designed, or even if I'm using this value, it's going to move with how I copy the cost. It just automatically resets that value to be the value in the corresponding column. The rest is this is going to easily copy over. It's not going to drift anything the way the XLOOKUP works. And now I have the costs of my 4 products. So this is the finished good cost. So we calculated the raw material cost. These are the costs of the components. And then we moved over. I'm just going to double check that each of these 527, 425, they moved over here correctly. Okay, so now we have cost. But we have this, what is this formatting here? This is going to clear this. That's weird looking. So let me clear that. And then I'm going to, it's also over here. All right, so, and I'm going to take this and maybe I'll put like a strong, bold outing around that. And then I'm going to, do the proper formatting, freeze the top row. We're gonna, everything looks like it's formatted properly. I'm just gonna set a print range. Page layout, print there, I'm gonna set a print range. I'm gonna want this to print to 1 page. And you should always, set a header and a footer. And do a print preview. Okay, that looks good. So that's set up. Okay, so these are the results. I did modify an amount here, so this, your product form I have changed. I changed that. So I'm going to end the video here as part 1. I'm going to create a part 2. Then in part 2, we're going to look at how to use Solver and GoalSeek to optimize the sales price. Okay, look forward to talking to you in part 2.